Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are warmly welcome to our first virtual classroom learning. I presume you are doing well and staying safe. More importantly, observing whose preventive measures, popular of them being um, men, as in you not touching your mouth, you not touching your eyes, and you not definitely touching your nose. And if you must go out, when you do, you practice social distancing. Safe. I need you to stay safe. I need you to stay alive. All right. Today we are looking at literary devices or techniques. This is a bit of a revision, and it is necessary for us to do so to enable us keep abreast of some of these techniques that writers use all the time, even as we do analysis of our literary text. So by way of objectives, we are looking at exploring literary techniques and what their meanings are. We will cite some few examples and then demonstrate how to incorporate them in writing. A few things to note. You need to know that literary techniques are employed by writers to distinguish their work from other writers. So you would notice, especially in the Year 9 class, that Nathaniel is a bit of a verbose person. He uses a lot of heavy words in his writing. And Amalia, on the other hand, is the straightforward type who doesn't have a lot of time at her disposal to be hiding whatever she feels. She would just spill them at your face as it is. So typically we see that Shakespeare makes use of archaic language and then rise to a setting or a specific rhythmic pattern, which we all know is called the iambic pentameter. And then when you compare his work to that of a more recent writer, that is a 21st century writer like Chimamanda Adichie of Nigeria, she is a pretty straightforward person, just like Amanda, very straightforward with her writing and avoids all forms of archaism. Again, you need to know that literary devices are just like building blocks. They constitute the foundation for literature. They constitute the foundation for every piece of writing. So to know what a writer is trying to say, you would have to look at the techniques in which he's presented his work, because some are superficial, others are quite deep. Never mind me touching my face. I've actually sanitized my hands. So we get to know George Orwell, who wrote The Animal Farm. He, for one, used animal characters to speak to a certain political regime. So on the surface, you see animals at play in the story, but then deeper, you get to know he's talking about political characters and political regime for that matter. Right, so we move on to explain some literary techniques. The first one is allegory, and George Orwell's work is an example of an allegory. They use fictional characters, be it animals, object, whatever they find, and they try to tell the story of, most often than not, a true account of an event that they try to present them in a certain fictional form. And the thing about the characters they employ in these writing is that they seem to have a certain correlation with these characters in real life. So you would notice that pigs are naturally a greedy bunch of creatures, and you see in the Orwell story the pig in there and the greedy attribute it exhibits. And so yes, that is allegory for you. We have parody. Parody is also a type of technique where someone actually writes to imitate another person's work, or what they write to do is to actually make fun, satirize, or just to laugh at a character, a situation, present a humorous twist to that situation. We move to pathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy is a form of personification, but this one is a bit restrictive in the sense that it only assigns human emotions to whatever the inanimate object they are presenting to us. So we see the skies crying and all that. We see examples in the slides that follow. Anthropomorphism is also another form of personification, but those are the kind that gives human attribute to superhuman beings, for instance, gods. So we see a lot of the Greek gods exhibiting certain human tendencies. We will look at some examples later. We have comic relief. Comic relief is just the part where a certain humorous content or something that makes us laugh is introduced into a piece of a plot where the issues are actually um, seem to be mounting in a certain intensified manner. So we introduce the comic relief to sort of introduce some laughter into the scene to calm down tension. We also have malapropism. This word is actually derived from Pygmalion's work where we see Mrs. Malaprop. Mrs. Malaprop is seen to always be confusing one word for the other. So this is a situation where we swap one word for the other because they seem to have the same, what do we call it? Uh, Homophone, they seem to have the same sound. So we are reminded of our lesson in language where we have homophone. They share the same sound but mean something different. Then we have colloquialism. Any expression, anything that we use often, we use more than necessary. With time becomes a colloquial expression. We'll look at examples later. We have zygoma synlepsis. Now, there was a literary term used to modify two other words in different ways. So we use one word and then we use that one word to deal with two different situations, to modify two different situations. Aposiopesis, you see how careful I was with the pronunciation? You might bite your tongue if you don't do same. Now, there is a situation where there is a breaking off in whatever the character is saying or whatever the writer is trying to put out there. So there's a construction, but in the middle somewhere, he pauses or she pauses and then introduce something that appears a bit unrelated to it. This is comparable to ellipsis, but with ellipsis, the breaking point is at the end of the statement. Juxtaposition. Now, these are ideas, people, images that are placed next to one another to highlight their difference. This is comparable to foil, yes, foil. But with foil, you get to know that it's just about comparison of characters. But with juxtaposition, we place ideas and anything that we can just find to compare. Right. So we move on to the examples. Now, Allegory, as we've earlier mentioned, we have works by George Orwell, and then we have Faerie Queene by Edmund Spencer. I will encourage you to research on them and see how these people have presented animals or use creatures to refer to incidents that you wouldn't have ordinarily thought they would have been able to capture in that manner. Now, parody, as we said, imitates real life situations. We see them in the form of satirists, we see them in the form of cartoonists. So in Ghana, we have popular cartoonists like Tilapia, the cartoonist Frank Odwe, whose work often center on political activities in the country. They always designing or coming up with caricatures of our president and other political figures and other political situations that we find in the country. Kofi City means aka KSM is one serious satirist in Ghana who tries to make fun of happenings around. I am actually hoping that he'll come up with something after COVID-19. Now we have pathetic fallacy. We said human emotions to inanimate objects. So you have often said that the sun was sleeping peacefully in the bosom of the clouds. We also hear of expressions like the rain began to rain abuses. You see, abuse is a byproduct of anger, and so we see that rain has been assigned a human attribute of anger. Anthropomorphism, we see these examples. Zeus had to take his bath soon after falling into the pit. So we are told that gods, by their nature, are ever clean, they are ever neat. So if that is anything to go by, then we don't expect Zeus to be taking his bath, but we see him take his bath as it's captured here. And so that becomes a human attribute assigned to it. Then we have comic relief. Go to Macbeth, as we have read, and look at the Porter scene again and see the comic relief that is introduced after the many series of tragedies that we have encountered. And then again, look at the next character in Mercutio Critically Romeo and Juliet, and then you get to see that these characters actually bring some relief into the plot of the story. The nurse, for one, we notice that she's a bit profane, but always goes about them hilariously. So look at them again and you will understand better what we are looking at here. That's the position. We have example of what is good for the goose is good for gander. So we see goose and gander play side by side. All is fair in love and in war. So we see love and war, and then better late than never. So we see late and never. All right, so we have malapropism. So we have the dress kitchen was not found at the chicken. So what we are actually trying to say is that chicken is missing in the kitchen, but because of how similar the sounds are, we tend to swap them. We have He was comprehended for the crime, when actually the person wants to say apprehended, which is a synonym of arrest. So yes, and then we have colloquialism. So all over the place you have, or you hear the expressions going bananas, you are not, don't chicken out, buzz off. All these expressions are colloquialism. Then we have zugma, synlepsis. We said one word is used to address different situations or used to modify different situations. So we have she broke. The word here is broke, his car and his heart. So broke has been used to describe what happened to the car and what happened to his heart. And then we have Shabak took his lunch and his bread. So we see that Shabak here is seen taking lunch and then taking bread at the same time. Never mind that Shabak has been treated as a boy here. Anyway, now the last one, aposiopesis. We have I wanted to, but I doubt what his reaction will be. We have he decided to grant him and he changed his mind. So what we see over here is this. I wanted to, whatever he wanted to do, we are not told. There is a pause, there is a break, and then the person actually switches to another thing altogether. Now he decided again, we see that there is something missing. Grant him and what was it going to grant? We are not told, but then there is a sudden change to what he thought might have become the person's reaction. These are some few examples. Now, the text here has some of these devices we have discussed carefully incorporated in them. But to make it more fun, I'll leave it for you to fish out some of these devices, especially the one that are highlighted in, is it brown or red? Yes. And then try to identify them in your text. So that becomes the first task to be done, the first assignment. For instance, when you read the first two lines, you have Arthur suddenly seemed to have butterflies in his stomach. He just couldn't fathom what was going on. He thought he may be going, but he quickly shifted that thought to the upper compartment of his mental domain. So what we are saying is that butterflies in his stomach is a popular expression used all over the place. So it is a case of colloquialism. Great. Now we move to the assignment for the day. This happens to be the text. To draft a short literary piece of not less than 150 words, where at least 6 of the devices discussed are effectively incorporated. Remember to state which ones or which of the devices you're using first before incorporating them in your draft. Note that the same drafts or the same presentation will be used for year 9, but then there is a third text, sorry, year 10, but there's a third text for you. So you look it up in your slide. as will be attached on a class dojo. Folks, this is where we bring today's presentation to an end. I wish you all the best. Stay safe and please cooperate with us in these times. Make sure you are responding to our assignment as swift as possible. And let's get to learn something new in times like this. Bye bye.